Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Krayden, broadcasting live from Ottawa. Thank you for joining me on this Saturday morning. We're about to get some snow, apparently, in the Ottawa area. So I haven't even raked the leaves. I've been so involved in the news, and especially the ostrich story. I haven't raked the leaves. I'm going to run out and do that after this broadcast, and then I hate leaving leaves on the ground when the snow flies because you don't get them again, because this could be the beginning of more snow. We're supposed to have a very severe winter. Anyway, we'll be back in mere moments here with more.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yeah, do it live. It's another hard day, I have to say. And I was speaking to one of my sources on the ground who I've spoken to quite extensively over the last couple of weeks, especially. He gives me sort of an update on what's actually happening with the supporters and with the CFIA and the RCMP, how they're interacting, what's being said. And he's always asked me, please don't mention my name on the air, just because I don't want consequences from the government. And I totally understand that. But all I can say is he's very, very well placed. He knows what's going on. And, what he told me yesterday was not, he told me about the marksmen, by the way, which, and he said they looked like they were military or ex-military. Now, if you're ex-military yourself or military, you know what that means. There's a certain bearing, a certain look. And my question is, were these marksmen borrowed from the Canadian Armed Forces for this purpose? If so, that would have been an aid to the civil power. Now, how do I know that? Well, I was a public affairs officer for years. I joined at a time when there was lots of aid to the civil power going on, where the military was being used by the federal government or provincial governments for purposes that they could not do themselves. It's usually in relief of floods or cleanup of some kind. The mayor of Toronto actually used it to shovel snow, which was ridiculous. But they can use it as they did in the Oka crisis. Remember that, when the Mohawks in Montreal taken over a golf course, and the Sûreté the Quebec provincial police were unable to deal with the situation, so they called in the armed forces. And it was a standoff for weeks, and basically a massive public affairs exercise. And I know most of the people involved in that. I worked with them when I was in uniform. And it was a massive public affairs exercise, more so than it was a overtly military one, because nobody wanted to kill anybody. It would have been a disaster. So nobody died in that. It was not like Waco or other operations in the States where the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms went berserk, and people ended up in a shooting match and lives were lost. I'm happy to say no lives were lost in the exercise, because the funny thing is, I'm sure nobody really remembers it today. They would remember it if people had died. So why am I telling you all this? Well, if the CFIA and basically representing the federal government wanted the Canadian Armed Forces involved in this operation, they would have had requested it publicly and officially through an aid to the civil power. None of that happened. So we're demanding to know who these marksmen were. I'll show you some pictures of them in a minute. They came onto the farm site, I wouldn't say jovial, but just looking just as carefree, like they were going to start a game of touch football. It's just so easy to kill things, which is not an attitude, by the way, that I remember many members in the Canadian Armed Forces having. They respected life, and they knew, especially if they had lost people. And in the Air Force, we didn't lose a lot of pilots, but we did lose pilots from now and again. And every life was considered to be a tragedy if it was lost. And most military people are bloodthirsty or sanguinary or crazy for war or for conflict. They know that they're there, so we don't have war. So whoever these clowns were, who seem to be getting their jollies off of shooting defenseless ostriches, I don't even know if you can call them marksmen, because it took them 6 hours to kill these birds. Were they really that good shots? These are questions that need to be answered, because the cover-up continues, not begins. The cover-up continues at Edgewood, BC's Universal Ostrich Farms. This is a wasteland today, by the way. If you've seen pictures of that, I'll show you something. This is a wasteland. Yeah, there it is there. Now, they have been attempting to truck away these bodies. It's been a disaster because, it's not easy to truck away God knows how many ostriches, because we still haven't got a number. I'm seeing the news media report anywhere from 398 down to 100. We still haven't got a figure. And how many ostriches they kill? Why don't we? Because I believe they were killing the ostriches for weeks. And I think that's been proven now, because there's no way there's 398 ostriches or even 330 ostriches here. They've been lying to you. As I've told you for the past 6 weeks, there has been foul play, no pun intended, going on here for the past 6 weeks. They initiated this call weeks ago in anticipation of the Supreme Court giving them the go-ahead. And they knew they would not have to account for any of their actions, because once the call is over, it's over, and they move on to their next assignment. So, do you feel numb today? Anyway, to get back to my source on the ground, I said, how did it feel watching all of this yesterday? And he said, it was like watching a horror movie, except we couldn't leave the theater afterwards. It was real. I thought, wow, that's exactly it. This unfolded like a horror movie. These bastards, and by the way, that last post I put on X, I rarely ever swear in real life. I never swear on the media. I swore in that because I am damn angry about what happened. Not just because of the atrocity that occurred there, but the fact that these people are lying and they're getting away with it. The mainstream media continues to cover their asses. The government continues to lie about this being an issue of health and safety. They won't acknowledge these were healthy birds. They know goddamn well they were, excuse my language. They won't admit that because they don't want to look like the fools and the clowns and the goons and the thugs they are. That's why they won't acknowledge it. So here is a very interesting post. And I saw this, and this just absolutely wrecked me when I read this yesterday. This is from Caroline Naw. Oh, sorry, Caroline Naw. This is a Facebook post. I think it was also an X. This just tore my heart out. She says, Caroline writes, they were gunned down in the dark over hours. I watched the lives from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. and had to log off around 9 because I couldn't take any more. The gunshots, the agonizing sounds of the birds, the screaming. By the time I muted the sound, I think the count was around 600 bullets. It was absolutely effing sickening. The anger I feel is unreal, and I will not be silenced. Caroline, neither will I. This is why I'm going to continue to look into the cover-up that's been going on at this farm. I'm going to continue to ask questions because it didn't end with the brutal extermination of hundreds of ostriches at the Universal Ostrich Farms. It will continue at other farms unless we all get off our asses and demand answers and say enough is enough. This organization is not going to be unaccountable. It's not going to do whatever the hell it wants. It's not going to override property rights, the rights to livestock, the rights to livelihood. No, no more. It's over. We're going to fight back, and we're going to hold you accountable for what you did at this farm and what you think you're going to do at other farms across mainly Western Canada, because you like to pick on the Western Canadians most, because it's not vote rich for your Liberal Party that you serve so well, your Liberal government that you're in the pocket of. No, you really like to pick on Western farmers, especially ridings like Edgewood, which is a conservative riding. So you relish this. You really, really enjoyed this, didn't you? Monsters of the CFIA. Incompetent monsters who couldn't even count, who couldn't administer basic health and safety to these animals. You abused them. You neglected them. You maltreated them. You exercised cruelty against them. That's the record. And I tell you what else has to happen. The CFIA needs to be sued. Civilly sued for breaking the terms of the Supreme Court order and gross animal cruelty and negligence. Gross. And for an inhumane and inhuman method of killing these animals. They suffered for hours. In fact, we know some were still alive in the morning, twitching. That must have really got you guys excited, eh? You love to see the suffering. And to have the damned nerve to suggest this was the most humane way of killing these animals. You people don't know your elbow from your ass. You are so stupid that it's embarrassing to say you're part of Canada. You're not part of my Canada anymore. This was the most inhumane and most inhuman way of killing these poor, defenseless animals. And you chose that because you wanted to invoke and inflict the most pain and suffering, not just on the birds, but on Katie, Tassitnay, her family, and the supporters there who cried. I'm not going to show Katie clawing at the fence again, pleading for you to stop. No. But that's what happened. And you enjoyed that too, didn't you? You enjoyed that too. Here's evidence of just how inhumane this culling was.
Your camera?
Two birds over to the left of that bird. It looks like there's another bird that's alive.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I gotta send this to Keith. Right there.
Wait, it's not clear. Okay.
Right there.
They show me?
No, that's his. Can you stop
With
video?
the legs up?
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Fuck. Oh, okay.
If you have the biggest picture and she's taking a picture, she can
I can
make it
actually.
bigger.
No, I can zoom in as long as it's a picture. Like. Okay, I gotta sit still. I can't move that.
One on the left moved when I was looking at him.
No, they're not moving. Okay, so I'm.
I have trouble watching that. That's really humane, folks. That's really humane, you bastards at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and you bastards in the RCMP who protected these killers. From whom? These terrible, violent supporters who never lifted a finger, who never did anything except plead, who never did anything except ask for mercy, and they got none. They got none. Is that what you were protecting the CFIA from, those horrible, nasty supporters? Eh? The RCMP is a defunct, discredited, demonized police organization that works for the Liberal government only. Not for you, not for me. I grew up respecting the police. I was in uniform, the Canadian Armed Forces, for over 12 years. I worked with police. I respected the police. I don't respect the RCMP anymore. They're not on your side. They're not on my side. They weren't on the side, Katie, their family, or this farm. They were there to kill and to facilitate this slaughter. And that's all they were ever there for. Sorry. There's more evidence. And here's the goddamn killers. Not wearing their protective gear. No hazmat gear. No PPE. Nothing. Oh, I thought these birds were dangerous. I thought they posed a health hazard. What a bunch of seamy hypocrites you are. What a bunch of lousy, mendacious idiots you are. Nobody's going to notice. Yeah, the world has noticed. You people are clowns. You're a gong show. You're a gong show on the road, visiting farms to harass and to kill. Here we are again. Look at that. No PPE. Whoops. Wonder what happened there. And here's another example. This is Chris Dacey. Once again, thank you, Chris, for sticking it out as long as you have. It's been 6 weeks, I think, you've been there. I mean, we all know this is not the place if you want to make big money as a journalist, because this story has been sat on by social media, except X. There was a lot on X yesterday. But very few broadcasters, so-called independent media broadcasters, dared to talk about this show. Chris was not one of them, obviously. He was there on scene. I was not one of them. Viva Fry was not one of them. We talked about it quite a lot. In fact, for the past, I would say, 45 days, I have not missed talking about the ostrich farm with every show I put on the air. Maybe it's not the whole show. Sometimes it has been. But I've talked about it every day because I think it's of national importance. Some so-called small C conservative broadcasters had no guts to talk about this story. They were cowards because they thought it might hurt their ratings, and they thought Pierre Poilievre might not approve because, Pierre Poilievre doesn't exactly like the fact these ostriches are being called, but he has said nothing about the ostriches per se. A little bit of criticism about the CFIA confusing people. What a pile of bullshit that was. Sorry, not good enough. And the people on this farm know it wasn't good enough. I want to go to my X site before we get to the budget. And I know I will get to the budget today. If I've seemed a little negligent about the budget this week, it's because I really haven't given a shit about the budget this week. And it's only coming to me now about how we're getting fleeced again by the Liberal government, and they're spending your money again on LGBTQ projects, on social reengineering, just like Justin Trudeau, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's have a look. I always like to go to my X site here. Here we go. Yeah. There's so much good stuff on here. And I encourage you, let's get to the top. Because I was looking at this morning. I encourage you to, this is my last tweet. I'm not going to read this because some people are a little surprised that I was so angry in this. But I encourage you to have a look at this. I encourage Katie to repost this. She's not reposted any of the material. I had an article up on the Post Millennial, Blaze Media. I did 4 or 5 broadcasts in the last couple of days about this, and I don't know why. There's none of it has been reposted. But I encourage you to do that, Katie. I really do. And I don't understand why you're not. That's, of course, is today's show. You know, a big finger to Super Save Group for doing all this hard work on behalf of the CFIA, taking their garbage. Where do you think the carcasses are going? Well, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. They could be going to a good friend of Mark Carney. And believe me, whoever takes these carcasses is going to make a lot of money off of it. But Super Save facilitated this whole operation. They were part of the waste chain throughout. We reported on that. I don't know if there were carcasses in those dumpsters. I don't know why they went from a gravel pit to Super Save to landfill sites in the area. We're not even sure how many landfill sites they went to or what was in those dumpsters. We know there were septic tanks being removed in the middle of the night, which could have been pulverized, liquefied ostriches, but we'll never know because all of that is being destroyed as we speak. The evidence is being destroyed. We'll never know. Here we are. The ostriches being removed in large blue bins is no longer a conspiracy theory. United We Stand writes, these guys have been trying to unload this large blue bin filled with ostrich carcasses for at least a half hour without any success so far. I don't think they thought this one through. I don't think they thought this one through either. Get this. We talked about this yesterday. Cloned meat will be on your shelf, grocery shelves, and you won't know it. There's been no review of safety for humans. No labeling indicated it is cloned. I'm not making this up. We reported on this yesterday. It will be on your grocery shelves, and you will not know if it's cloned meat. It will be no indication about that. And once again, the government is celebrating this. And incredible. Here's more sites. I'll just show a bit of this. This is Daisy Media. I mean, it's just incredible. Just incredible. And I can't wait to see more. It's shocking. So, you know, we have been reporting on this for weeks that there has been something going on here with the waste at this farm. We want answers. We're not going to be content with, well, it's all over. The operation is all over now, and you're not going to find out. Yeah, we are going to find out. Yeah, we are. This is a great meme. This is Mark Carney's legacy. Why are politicians in the Carney police force so smug and proud? What they've done is in plain sight. We know and see the propaganda psyop in lies they're unrolling to cover up. They're killing hundreds of healthy animals to destroy a farm family in an orgy of violence. We will not forget. I love this. This is the new Canadian flag, and it stands for brutality, death, and killing. Nicholas Holscher, we had him on the show just days ago. He again said these are healthy ostriches. What is going on in the minds of these moronic government bureaucrats? Death was going on in their mind. That's what was going on. Yeah. Nicholas, thank you for your hard work on this file. You're one of the real experts out there. I encourage you to read my Substack column that went up yesterday. A lot of you have. I'm very proud of this. It's got a lot of research in there about what transpired, but also there's a heartfelt, very emotional message about what this meant for Canada and not just the farm. Yeah, and Sonia Stewart is encouraging a bit of checking around. I think we need a full investigation and audit of this. And Anyway, we're going to get on to the budget now. And I thank you. Thank you for watching this. This has been, as I said, it's numbing to realize they got away with it. But they can get away with it for now. We're going to continue to go after them in as many ways as possible. Now, I want to get into the budget because if I don't get into the budget, another day will go by. This is incredible because a lot of people are saying that Mark Carney is not like Justin Trudeau. He's more commonsensical. He doesn't want to waste your tax dollars on identity politics, on spending money on transgenderism, and spending money on stopping parents from knowing about their child's pronoun in elementary school, on spending money for the LGBT. Of course he wants to spend money on that. He recently said every day is Gay Pride Day in Canada. So what's he up to? Adam Legge, the president of the Business Council of Alberta, says he agrees that Carney's first budget signals a welcome break from predecessor Justin Trudeau's focus on social spending. The Prime Minister understands the imperative of an economy, the imperative of investment, and the imperative of productivity. So doing things that are actually in an effort or in a spirit to grow our economy is a welcome change from social transfers and redistribution of the Trudeau era, said Legge. Whoops. Maybe not. Here's the social spending and budget 2025 from huckster Mark Carney. Carney's first budget cuts $19.3 billion from discretionary social programs that Trudeau had promised to expand, delivering the first real-term social spending reduction in a decade, despite automatic OAS growth. All right, so there seems to be a little bit of reduction here in the employment insurance from the Trudeau years. Canada Disability Benefit, Indigenous Programming, National Housing Strategy, Rapid Housing Initiative, $10 a day child care. Yeah, it's going down a bit. Yeah, it's going down for international assistance, foreign aid, old age security. Well, that's not a good thing for the old agers. Canada Child Benefit, it's going down too. Total social transfer to persons, that's going down too. There we go. Comparison on DEI gender equity spending. Trudeau's last full budget, April 2024, versus Carney's first budget. How about that? It's going up. Trudeau, $1.2 billion. 60% was set to expire in 2026, 27. Carney's budget, 1.3 increase. 100% of it is locked in permanently. There we go. That's the real Mark Carney. He's keeping the DEI spending going. Deficit. Largest non-pandemic deficit in Canadian history. $78.3 billion deficit. 2.5% of GDP. More than double last year's actual $36.0 billion deficit. $36 billion higher than the $42.2 billion projected in December 2024 fall economic state. Remember that from former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland? She said that was going off the fiscal cliff. We've fallen off the fiscal cliff. Carney says generation of investments to counter U.S. tariffs and build long-term strength. $84 billion over 5 years on defense, pushing towards the higher NATO targets, which is 2%, then 5%. $13 billion for Build Canada Homes, which, of course, there's a little bit of assistance from Mark Carney there. Billions in tax incentives for AI, infrastructure, border security, and talent attraction. Chrystia Freeland was fighting tooth and nail to keep the 2025-26 budget at $42.2 billion, 1.4% of GDP, on a path to 1% of GDP by 2026-27. That was the official projection in her final fall economic statement, tabled just hours after she resigned on December 16, 2024. She repeatedly called these her fiscal anchors. Forget the fiscal anchors. We have been told there are no fiscal anchors remaining. We're sinking. We're going out to deep sea. 2 years ago, Mark Carney threw all that out the window and tabled a 2 days ago, Mark Carney threw all that out the window and tabled a $78.3 billion deficit, 86% higher than Freeland's number, the biggest non-COVID deficit ever. Carney was trying to hold it to 42.2 billion. Carney just doubled it. Wow. And, there you can see. Yeah. We are so in the red in this country. We have added so much to the national debt in the last 10 years of the liberal regime of Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney that there's no going back. CFIA got more funding in the budget 2025. I wonder why. Must cost a lot to set up yourself in Edgewood, BC, a very isolated community, an hour to 2 hours away from Vernon. To live the high life in Vernon every night with your per diem, wining and dining at the best hotels in town. And there's 3 very nice hotels. They were staying at all of them. Key points on new funding in Budget 25. All new CFIA allocations are targeted investments for trade diversification and do not add to the 2025-26 baseline. So CFIA is getting $76 million over the next 5 years, starting 2026, for modernized digital trade tools, AI integration, and shifting to digital import-export certificates. $32.8 million over 4 years, plus $9.6 million ongoing to secure, expand, restore market access. We talked about this yesterday. So that CFIA is getting a reward for doing Mark Carney's bidding. Here's the kicker for me. We're going to keep spending money on Ukraine into the black hole of Kiev. General foreign aid is being cut by $2.7 billion over 4 years. What does that mean for Ukraine? Well, while military and related support to Ukraine is being increased by $6.2 billion over 5 years. How is that possible? Separately, support to Ukraine, which includes military aid and is not part of the cut foreign aid envelope, is expanded. $6.2 billion over 5 years to expand defense partnerships, explicitly including expanded military assistance to Ukraine, increased military training, and international policy programming. Oh, they're going to dip into D&D. All right, here's what you've all been waiting for. LGBTQ funding in Budget 2025. There's Mark, of course, acting it up at a gay pride event in Vancouver. Specific allocation for initiatives directly supporting 2S LGBTQ+, two-spirited, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and additional sexual, gender diverse communities is $54.6 million over 5 years, starting in 2026-2027, with $10.9 million per year ongoing thereafter. This funding renews and supports, I'm not going to say it all, LGBTQ programming through the Department for Women and Gender Equality, primarily via the LGBTQ+ Community Capacity Fund. It aims to build organizational strength, advance equality, and protect rights. A key portion, $7.5 million over 5 years, is dedicated to security and insurance costs for pride festivals. Yeah, and the pride festivals where children are exposed to nude men walking around. So why are we protecting those events? And since when do gays and lesbians, the LGBTQ+ community, not have the same rights as every other Canadian? They've got extra rights. They get their events protected. But if you're an evangelical Christian, you've got an event going on, well, the city will sue you, or the city will fine you, or you can be told you're not welcome in this place, and you have no recourse because nobody wants to hear your case. So Mark Carney is doing the same thing that Justin Trudeau did with the budget money. The federal I'll say it one more time, 2S LGBTQ+ action plan launched in August 2020 is funded with $100 million over 5 years as committed in budget 2022. So it hasn't been repealed. This $100 million is the core dedicated funding for implementing the action plan across federal departments. Breakdown, up to $75 million directly to 2 LGBTQ plus, or I missed the I there, community organizations, up to $40 million via the Community Capacity Fund for Organizational Strengthening. Well, I mean, this is all gibberish, of course. But what it means is Mark Carney is no different than Justin Trudeau and his subservience to LGBTQ agenda, the LGBTQ plus agenda, and his willingness to spend your tax dollars on social reengineering. Nothing has changed. I don't think I'm surprising any of you over that. So I want to end this. No, let me show you the store, and then I've got some very vital words to say here. Yes, please have a look at the store. We haven't focused much on it lately, and appreciate your patronage. Really do appreciate your patronage. So I think there's some things that the Ostrich Farm could have done, and I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback, but it's unfortunate that they did not go after the RCMP and the CFIA earlier in the process, because clearly the CFIA was violating the rules of the Supreme Court order. Clearly, they were violating. I reported that 5 weeks before Katie was waving around the so-called new order, which was not a new order from the Supreme Court. It was the one they issued on September 24th, and which I had put up within days of it. And of course, that's what they were doing. But they needed, and this is a lesson learned for future incidents like this. Don't wait. The CFIA is a ravenous, dictatorial, tyrannical organization that does not fight clean. It fights dirty. It will do whatever it thinks it can get away with. So we need to go after them with all available legal remedies. That includes suing them. Get them off your property if this happens to you. Substantiate what they're doing. And if the RCMP don't give a damn, and they don't, get a judge to order them off in a civil court, in a civil ruling. Do whatever you need to do to save your farm, to save your livelihood, to save yourself from utter destruction, because that's what they've done to this farm. And now this farm needs to fundraise. And I encourage we're going to put the Save Our Ostriches information in this description again today, and I encourage you to help Katie and her family. I am going to continue to do whatever I can to ensure that they are helped. And you need to move faster than the government when they're on your land. You need to get them off your land, because they will abuse everything under their domination. That's clearly what happened. And I think, and the other lesson learned here is, don't worry about the bots out there. Don't worry about the bots that the CFIA or Ag Canada is spending money on. Don't worry about the slanderous statements that are being made, because nobody's really looking at it. If you looked at the people who were watching and reading the outrageous, slanderous, defamatory bots, it was about 1/10 of the people who were reading the social media posts that were praising the defiance and the pushback from Universal Ostrich Farms. So ignore them. The more you pay attention to them, the more they won't go away. The more you pay attention to them, the more effective they are at destroying what you're doing. The more you pay attention to them, the stronger they become. Ignore them. I told that to Katie many times, and unfortunately, it's hard to do that when it's you being attacked. I know. Easy for me to say because I didn't take a lot of vilification. There were people in the comments section. There were trolls in the comment section saying, what a wimp, you're crying for ostriches, and why do you think this is so important? What a waste of time you are. You're a waste of space talking about this issue. Yeah, I can handle that. But had I been the subject of a concerted, systematic bot campaign, well, that's difficult. But I encouraged Katie throughout the process, ignore these people. They don't matter. You matter. What you're doing matters historically and even right now. So let's not give up in terms of the future, because they were allowed to get away with literal murder here. The CFIA, the RCMP, and the federal government, all in tune, all in collusion, all singing from the same song sheet. They got away with an atrocity here. Let's make sure, or let's do our damnedest, our best to make sure it doesn't happen to more farms. Because, as I said yesterday, they're already targeting other farms. They don't seem to know any other way of dealing with potential avian influenza outbreaks except killing everything in sight. They don't believe in natural immunity. They don't believe in herd immunity. They don't believe in antibodies. They don't believe in anything except vaccination and killing everything on sight. And if they continue, we're not going to have an animal left in this country. No, I'm not making this up. We will not have a chicken, cow, or pig left in Canada because everything eventually will be under this huge tarpaulin, just like the death pen was at Edgewood, under this huge tarpaulin of disinformation, misinformation, lies, mendacity, and crap from the federal government. They will hide it all and they will cloak it all under this tarpaulin of stamping out. We have to do it. Even though, as I've said, even the World Health Organization, which we all despise and loathe, even the World Organization for Animal Health says you don't have to stamp them all out. Try quarantine. Give it time. See if you can establish whether they're healthy or not. The CFIA never bothered to even test these animals. And I've said that every day. They had no desire to do that because they knew they were healthy and because they would have killed them anyway, even if they were healthy. Because, well, we were going to do it in December or January, so we'll do it now. Even though almost a year has passed, we'll do it now. Because, well, we really resent the fact we didn't get away with it then, so we're going to do it now. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about where these ostrich carcasses possibly went, possible conflict of interest, and we're going to examine in detail what's been happening here. Because this, as I said, the story's not over. It's going to happen again if we don't show increasing diligence and desire to ensure it doesn't happen again. I want to thank you all for watching today on this Saturday. It's always a pleasure to join you. This has been a very difficult week for me, for the family, and I'm sure for a lot of you who have been sharing your thoughts with me every night on your email, on my email. Go ahead, keep doing it, please. I'll read them, and sometimes I respond as much as I can. But thank you for your support and your encouragement. And I will do as much to encourage you. That I'm not stopping. I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to throw my hands up and say I guess we lost this and we lost it and we're going to lose everything in the process. We might eventually. I don't know. I haven't got a crystal ball. I don't know where this is going to end, but I'm not going to stand by and just watch it end in a way that to most Canadians, I think, would be unforgivable and unthinkable. Let's remember what happened this week as a warning about how awful, horrific, vile and ravenous the federal government can be. Thanks for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button, because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I'm going to keep this station on the air. I'm going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. I'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. This has been David Krayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. Resolve to resist